everybody. Hello once again, and welcome to the Prismata News and Game Dev Insights Show. I am Elliot, founder of Lunarch Studios, and I'm going to present to you the latest in Prismata news and features and stuff in the software, and we're going to get right to it right now. I want to talk about some of the new features that have just gone in this past week. If you go to the campaign section, you will notice it looks a little different. There's a new button here called Puzzle Packs. We actually split the puzzle content and the sort of main combat training content out into two separate areas, which are now called Combat Scenarios and Puzzle Packs. And we actually have added a completely new puzzle pack in here, which we're calling Challenge Pack 1. The combat scenarios actually have been renamed. The reason why, like, they used to be called like combat training, and then it was called basic exercises and stuff like that, but people actually thought it was like tutorials or like stuff for noobs, and weren't playing it as a result. So we decided to rename it to just combat scenarios and make it more like, you know, here's a bonus 50 free missions, rather than like here's some crappy newbie tutorial content, right? Like, this was as a result of the surveys we did earlier, where we discovered that people were not playing the combat training because they thought it was like, you know, something stupid. So that has been changed. The concept pack is now in here, and we have this new challenge pack 1. Now, this is a premium puzzle pack, which means it's not free to everybody. So if you are like one of the free keys we gave out, you will get access to a little like preview of it, where there are 3 puzzles available for you to try. But then if you want the rest, it's $9.99, or you can upgrade to Steel Splitter tier, and it's included in that. And all the Kickstarter supporters at Rhino tier or higher should now have access to this content. But to show you a little bit what it's like, I wanted to show you some of these puzzles. This one called Rezo War is one of the ones included in our free pack, and this is what we call a miniature, which is sort of a small set of units on both sides with nothing to buy. So you have no workers and no economy, and you just have to figure out how to survive this sort of onslaught, how to break your opponent's defenses and get through them with a limited number of units. So here we have Rhinos and Reservoirs, which ostensibly are very similar units, but there are small differences. The force fields can stay back and defend while attacking at the same time. The Rhinos can absorb. So in a situation like this, is the question like, do I want to attack for 5 maybe and hold a Rhino back and absorb? And then maybe, you know, I can exploit my opponent's defenses, maybe attack for 3 a couple of times. Or maybe I could try something else. Maybe I could attack for 5 and just do that. The problem is, now I'm never going to get through this wall, right? So you have to plan out your turns, plan out the sequence of attack and defense you want to do in order to get through your opponent's defenses. And you can try this puzzle right now in Prismata. It is absolutely free to try. Some of the other ones are a little bit more tricky. I'll give you a couple previews of them. So this mission, Gaussite Shenanigans, it's all about managing your green, and you have this vision turret which you can at some point click to give you more green, and you have this symbiote which is producing additional Gaussite, and you have this venge cannon which you might want to click, and you have to sort of plan all of the sequence of events that are going to happen. You know, are you going to click Sentinel, or are you going to hold it back? Are you going to click the Tesla coil and use up an engineer, or maybe you need that engineer on defense, and your goal is to kind of get through your opponent's defenses and deal with this Colossus and Shadowfang and other units in time before your defenses run out, so that you have enough left over to win the mission. And as you can see, there's a lot of choices to make. When do you click stuff? You know, which unit you click? Even with just a small number of units. So this is quite a challenging puzzle. Probably more challenging. Well, we've rated it 2 skulls, so more challenging than a lot of the content we've included in the concept pack. Which, if you tried these puzzles, we try to make them sort of a similar flavor. Next up, we have the Overheat Defense. So the way Overheat Defense works, I'll show you one of them, Quandary of Limitations, is basically your opponent has this Overheat Ray that's about to kill you in 14 turns, but otherwise they're not attacking at all. So you just have time to yourself to sort of methodically think about, what do I want to buy? What is the sequence in which I want to get these units so that I'll be able to take out this overheat ray before it fires? And you might notice some things like, oh, maybe do I need to buy this Animus early, or maybe I can buy it late? Do I need to buy these Doom drones in order to have enough money? Like, how many attackers do I need to buy in order to get through all this defense or to kill this overheat ray? Do I have enough gold? Do I have enough red? Right? And so you can sort of logic your way through what you need to buy and in what order in order to take out your opponent's overheat ray. So those are the overheat defense, and some of them are quite different and quite unusual. Like this one, for example, you notice there's hardly any attackers in the buy box, and you have to somehow do 30 damage. And your opponent doesn't have any defenders, but like that 30 damage has to happen all at once. And, you know, you might see Gaussite Symbiote and notice its click ability can perhaps do a lot of damage at once and think to yourself, maybe that's involved as part of the solution. But you don't even have Blastforge, Animus, or Conduit at this mission. Like, you just have the Symbiote, Flame Animus, Synthesizer, Chrono Filter. Like, it's a bit of an unusual situation, and you have to plan out this sequence of 9 turns so that you can get 30 damage by the end. That puzzle is one that I absolutely love. It is a lot of fun. I'll show you another one, which one? The Meet Your Doom puzzle. This one is the one that I was thinking about. Is this the one? Oh, yeah, this one is kind of interesting because, like, you have this doomed wall and it's about to die. So maybe you can buy walls and kind of defend and accumulate a little bit of resources, but then you're going to have to buy another doomed wall to replace it. And your opponent has an energy matrix. Like, you have to get up 5 attack. How are you going to get 5 attack to get through that when you're spending the vast majority of your resources just staying alive? Is it an Impending Doom ripoff? Yeah, it might be a little bit related to Impending Doom. This puzzle is sort of similar. In this puzzle, your opponent's attacking you with these 2 Asteri cannons, and you have some choices about how you could defend. Like, you buy walls and engineers, but then you're just getting into a cycle where you're repeating the same thing over and over again and not making any progress. Maybe you want to buy a husk and a wall, but then you're just getting into a cycle where you're making no progress. Maybe you want to buy an infusion grid, but then you need to, like, hold back some drones, you know, and then you just like end up buying a wall every turn, and now you're again just like making no progress, right? So how can you make progress such that you can crash through this 3 HP wall and eliminate your opponent's Asteri cannon, right? So those are the types of challenges we have in our puzzle pack, and there are 3 different pages of them: the miniatures, the overheat defense, and then the onslaught, which is sort of just like, you know, your opponent's got some stuff there and it's coming for you and you have to deal with it. And yeah, that is available now. It's $10, or you can upgrade to the Steel Splitter tier to unlock it. Next new feature is this thing we call Road to Glory. So, before I talk about Road to Glory, I want to talk about some of the feedback we got from new players back from when we did our free-to-play weekend. A lot of players like played for a little while, but then, you know, they like tried a few missions, they thought okay, and then they tried bots, and then they tried casual and ranked, and they didn't really know how to improve at the game or learn about the different aspects of the game. So we wanted something that would heavily incentivize players to experience all that Prismata has to offer, right? And achievements kind of do that by saying, you know, oh, go do this thing or go do this quest or whatever. But we wanted more of like a guided tour for new players. Like, what's the first thing you should do? And then what after that? And then what after that? And so we created this Road to Glory, which is a sequence of quests. There's actually over 30 of them. And there's sort of different things that you should do. And the very first quest is like, you know, play the first chapter of the campaign. And then after that, it's like, play the first chapter of combat training. You know, defeat basic bot. Just stuff like that that's very simple for a new player. But it goes all the way up to, like, you know, beating really advanced single-player content, beating really difficult bots, unlocking lots of achievements, scoring some points in weekly events or blitz brawls, you know, climbing to a decent rank on the ranked play ladder. Like, these sort of goals for players. And every time you achieve one of these goals, you get a prize. So I could defeat Expert Bot right now, and then basically this gift would become available to me. I'd click it, and I would get some kind of prize, a skin, an emote, shards, etc. And if you fill up this bar by completing a sequence of these objectives, then you get the big prize box. And the big prize box contains, well, there are some unique avatars, large amounts of shards. If you finish the whole thing, we give it a ton of shards. More shards than any other thing you can get in Prismata for free. And if you finish the entire Road to Glory, you get this frame, which I'll show you right here. It's basically a golden avatar frame, or there's a silver one as well. You get the silver one, and if you are also a Kickstarter supporter with access to the golden frame, then there's a golden version of it as well. But basically you get this silver deluxe fancy frame if you complete the entire Road to Glory, and that sort of signifies that you are a glorious Swarm wielder, a player who's truly mastered all aspects of the game, single player, multiplayer, everything. So if you're looking for a new challenge, achieving the Road to Glory frame is kind of the biggest challenge that exists in Prismata right now. And yeah, it's available to everybody. You don't have to pay a cent to unlock this frame. Just complete all that content. So the next new thing I want to talk about are languages. So, we got so many requests when we did our free-to-play weekend. Can you translate the game into Chinese, Portuguese, Russian, everything? And translating a game is a really difficult task for a number of reasons. First of all, every little bit of text in the game, that lives in our code for the game somewhere, but we have to take that and pull it out into a list that a person can then go through and edit. And then we have to make sure that nothing in the game sort of depends upon, say, the length of the text or which font is used or stuff like that. So there's all kinds of little bugs and issues that came up. And it actually required a substantial amount of work, multiple months of work, to sort of pull all that together and get it into a place where we can just change one file, which is a language file, and then all of the strings in the game will change. So that is now completed. And as sort of a test of that, you'll get this warning when you go into the language menu that says, yes, it's for testing only. But we have implemented a number of different languages. The fonts work. The translations are almost all bad. In some cases, we just used Google Translate. David actually did the Korean because he's a native Korean speaker. His Korean is not like A++. He's not a professional Korean translator, but he could go through and translate most of the game into Korean, and so it's there. And so you can now try the game. We'll switch to Russian. It'll log me out, log me back in, and oh look, Prismata's in Russian. Now, if you're a native Russian speaker, you'll probably think these translations are terrible. These are the wrong words. And it's Google Translate right now. So there are a number of members of our community who came up to us and said, like, can I help with translation? Can I help translate some of Prismata into my native language in order to bring the game to more people? And for the longest time, we had to say, like, no, there's no way we can even do that. We're not ready. But now, if you want to add a new language to Prismata, you literally just have to, like, go into the Prismata install directory, and there's a folder called language. Inside there is a file called languages, and you just, like, you can add a line to that file to add a new language, and then you add a new translation file, which you can just copy one of the ones from existing language, put in your translations, and it'll just work. So, if you want to make like Prismata in Pirate, you could do that. The only thing that is not supported out of that is the single player content, right? So the single player content will have to be translated a little bit differently. We sort of have scripts for every mission, and each mission you'll have to go in and translate the script, and we haven't opened that up to anybody outside yet. But yeah, if you are interested in helping improve the translations and to help bring the game to more people, we have a channel in the Discord server where we're sort of organizing that. I have this little survey, which I have provided a link to in some of our updates. I will put it in the YouTube description as well. If you go there and just, fill out a little bit of information, hey, I want to help translate the game into my native language or whatever, we would be, like, so grateful to every person who has offered to help. Now, there are a couple of languages which we'll probably be getting professional translation done. Chinese, assuming we're going to take Prismata to China, we will probably get a professional translation done and get all of the QA done and stuff like that. But for a team of our size making a game like Prismata, Like, we don't have the budget to go and translate the entire story professionally into 10 different languages, because it's just the amount of work required to do that, and not just to perform the translation, but to then do quality assurance on it and testing and everything, is a monumental amount of work. That, like, you know, if Prismata becomes huge and super popular, yeah, it probably makes sense for us to do that. But it's like, you know, it can cost tens of thousands of dollars to do the translation and the QA and testing for just a single language, right? And Prismata has quite a long script, like all of those single-player missions and everything. There's quite a lot of text. So the question is, are we going to get a professional version of Prismata in every single one of these languages, including the single-player? Almost certainly not. But if you know, if we just say translate the menus and translate the little unit info panels and stuff like that, that can help make the game accessible to a lot of people for whom it is currently not accessible because of language. So our goal is really just to bring the game to as many people as we can, and especially people who want to play the game in their native language rather than English or whatever. We want to be able to provide as much of that option as is as reasonable for us to provide. So it's now there. You can mess around with it. And hopefully we'll be able to get some of those translations improved in the coming months. Next item on my list is the big surprise, the big reveal, the big announcement, which is Prismata is going free to play on September 26th this year. So that's like 2 weeks away. That's less than 2 weeks away. We are going to change Prismata on Steam from the $25 pack is the only thing you can buy to you'll be able to get either the free version or the $25 Founders Edition. And the $25 Founders Edition will be just like it is now. It includes all the same benefits that you get if you sort of look under the $25 category in the shop. So you'll still be able to get that for $25. And the free version is just, you can access the game, the base game only, for free. And that includes all the multiplayer modes, the first chapter of the campaign, you know, all the 50 combat training, which is now called combat scenarios, as well as the free puzzle pack. Basically, you know, everything that you can get in Prismata except for the premium single-player content, chapters 2 and on, as well as the premium puzzle pack, and the cosmetics. So the cosmetics and the premium single-player content remain the only thing you can pay for. We're not switching to pay-to-win, anything like that. Prismata will never be pay-to-win in competitive multiplayer. You'll never be able to pay for an advantage. We're just opening the game up to more people. And this is sort of what we had intended from the beginning, is to make the game free to play so as many people as possible could get in. And we've just sort of been waiting till we had Road to Glory in place and a few of these other things in place before we felt we were really ready for that. So yeah, it's happening in 2 weeks. There is one other feature that will go in before then, which is the single-player campaign. We are modifying the difficulty of a number of the missions and adding an extra difficulty. So right now there's the normal and there's the expert, and we are adding a casual difficulty, which is going to be below normal. Now in some cases the current mission will become the casual and we'll add sort of a new, slightly harder version as normal. In some cases the current mission will remain normal and we'll add an easier version for casual. In some cases we'll kind of do a little bit of both. We'll take the current mission and have a slightly harder version, a slightly easier version, and the current version might just go away, right? So there will be some adjustments to the single-player campaign. We will probably make a few minor little adjustments to the script based on all the feedback that we received. You know, some people really didn't like a certain scene or really didn't like a certain line, and we'll probably change it. Our goal is not to change the canon or to change the story or anything major, but there will be a few minor details that are going to be changed in that update as well. So it should go live sometime next week or within a week or so. And yeah, that'll be it, and then we're going free to play. So the schedule for the rest of the year is free to play will happen. Chapter 4 and 5 are our next major milestones after that. There will probably be a patch with some new units in between chapters 4 and 5, and that will take us to the end of the year, perhaps a little bit past the end of the year, depending on how long chapters 4 and 5 take. We are looking at early next year for the full release. So when we say going free to play, this is not the transition out of early access to full release. We're still going to be in what's called early access on Steam. That is not going to change. The transition from early access to full release will happen early next year, and sort of in that interim period, we're going to be preparing versions of Prismata for a number of different stores and websites. So if you know stores like the Humble Store or GOG or you know, even websites like Congregate or Armor Games or stuff like that, we are looking to put Prismata on those sites. We've spoken to, I guess, all of those already. You know, I don't want to say anything's confirmed or anything's in there, but basically it's, you know, we're in the process of bringing Prismata to those types of platforms, and assuming nothing crazy happens, I think we will be on all the ones I listed. But, you know, that's not a final confirmation. It's just sort of what we're planning right now. There are a number of other sites that we're looking to get Prismata on, which in some cases I shouldn't talk about yet, because the ink hasn't been put on the paper yet. But we're looking to bring Prismata to as many sites as possible, as well in a number of non-English regions. You know, and so the timeline for that will depend on when translation gets done. If it's going to a non-English region, whether they'll be doing professional translation by a publisher or something like that. I've actually been spending quite a lot of time in the last few months working on those deals and talking to publishers and distributors, and you know, there's negotiation and there's like background checks on our company and their company, and it's quite complicated and quite a long, arduous process relative to just like putting your game up on Steam. But not a lot of folks do it, and so we hope that we'll be able to have an advantage in bringing our game to a larger audience as a result of doing it. So, that's the schedule. Those are the plans. That's sort of what we've been up to. You'll notice that, like, we were on kind of a 2-month cycle of putting out a new piece of content every 2 months in terms of the single-player campaign, Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, and now the puzzle pack. And our goal is to kind of maintain that pace. So maybe around 2 months from now, we will see Chapter 4, and then another 2 months will be Chapter 5, which puts us into January-ish. You know, maybe we'll try and get them both out in 2018. You know, we'll see how it goes. But the last couple of months, we've been really focusing heavily on like new user experience, looking at all the feedback, trying to make sure the game is in the absolute best and most pristine condition it can be for when new players arrive when we go free to play, because we really want them to stick around and become long-term players and fans of the game and grow our community and all that fun stuff. So, you know, it's a lot of work. Anyways, that is it for the game dev updates. I'm going to open the floor to questions, and I will pull open the Twitch chat. If any of you guys want to ask me absolutely anything about Prismata, the game, our plans, you know, things that we're working on, I will take any questions that you have. I'm just gonna grab my water. Where did I put it? There we go. What advertising plans do you have that you can share with us? So we're getting a new trailer done. We are getting a new what's called key art, which is like, right now, everywhere you see Prismata in a store, it's like the Prismata logo, and then there's like Anya standing there, and usually there's this, like, this background, the one that's like in the Prismata lobby that has this spaceship, and we want to get a piece of like nice battle art that looks really cool and reflects the game and the gameplay and being a swarm wheeler and all that, to sort of use as a piece of key art everywhere where you'd see Prismata. So that's getting made. We have a bunch of plans with streamers to do some show matches, sponsorships, Twitch, YouTube. We're looking at pouring quite a lot into just advertising, social media, web, forums, just paid user acquisition for a free-to-play product. So, you know, just like an ad that would appear and people click it and they go to our Steam page, and then they can install the game for free or check it out or whatever. We're working on some deals with publishers who will do some advertising on our behalf in exchange for a cut of the sales on their platform, for example. We're always happy to do those deals. because they mean new players for our game, right? The more players we can bring to the game, the better. I am hoping within the next year we will get 1 million new players. You know, or at least 1 million people to install the game or click create new account or you know, start playing the first mission. You know, many of them may not make it through more than a few missions before they decide, this isn't right for me, right? But once a game goes free, you know, suddenly the funnel is very wide because so many people will just go like, oh, sure, I'll try it, right? As soon as they hear about it, if somebody says, you should try Prismata, just go here and try it, it's free, right? They'll do it, right? So, you know, that's kind of what I hope we can achieve. And like, the amount of marketing spend you have to get that many installs, well, it depends on how you're doing it and what you do and stuff like that. But, you know, we're hoping it won't be too insanely expensive. That's the goal. And like, you know, if we can pay 50 cents to acquire a user and make $1 on average from a user, then it's just worth it to do that as many times as we can, right? So there's sort of, if we can get Prismata to a point where acquiring new users is a profitable activity, then we can just keep doing it as much as we can, right? And of course, it's not a strictly linear factor of, you know, pay X, get Y, but in some sense, that's the sort of most risk-free way of acquiring new users. It's just through ads. And it's what a lot of like web-based strategy games do, right? It's kind of the standard thing. When will 6-second bot turns max be added for casual bots? The casual bots, well, the reason a lot of them take a long time is actually because of transferring data from the client to the bot. And especially the ones with the big opening books. The way that works right now is kind of janky. It basically is transferring an amount of opening book data to the bot every single time the bot has to play a turn. And it's not efficient. They could be made to move a lot faster if just the opening book data was in the bot itself rather than in Prismata. And that's sort of been an item that's been on our backlog for quite a long time, is to do that and get that done. Deep drone takes 35 seconds a turn. It should not take 35 seconds a turn unless you're running on a toaster. And the inter-process communication between the Prismata game process and the AI process is like really low bandwidth. What's the indefinite integral of square root of x cubed plus 1 times 5 minus 4 over x cubed dx? Is there a nice little substitution in there that fixes that? There might be. I don't know. 16 seconds, not 35. Yeah, so it's literally like the bot is probably thinking for 3 seconds and it's taking 13 seconds to do the communication, which is too long. And we do have a way to fix it, but it's like pretty annoying. I have talked to Dave Churchill about it, and he said that, like, yeah, we could probably do it. Yeah, maybe that should be higher on the priority list, because it might actually be a factor that's causing people to, in casual match, like, you know, not play it for longer. I don't know. So, fun fact regarding that integral. I actually was the author of content on the Integration Bee contest that we used to have back at University of Waterloo, which is literally a math contest where you had to, like, do integrals as fast as possible, and some of them were really tricky. Oh yeah, Alex Weiss remembers Integration Bee. Yeah, one of the best times of my life. Will we be sponsoring any StarCraft streamers? Have not decided. I mean, honestly, StarCraft 2 right now is pretty dead. There's not a whole lot of streamers. You know, I think we may have talked to In Control or one of them and asked them to be in one of our tourneys, and we may do that again. Yeah, right now, I think he said he wanted to be in the last one, but he was just like busy that weekend or something. So if we do another tourney, then we'll probably invite him, and we may invite I don't know, a few of the other guys. We'll see. We'll see. I have all their emails. I can contact them. It's unclear how much that's really worth, though. Like, especially when these guys are only, like, pulling 1,000 views or something like that. Like, it's, you know, it's tricky. Any other questions? I can just sit here all day talking about integrals. I could probably find for you guys the integrals that I wrote for that contest. So that is so far removed from Prismata that we're kind of getting things distracted. Force and Show in Control Day 9 Destiny. I think Show has played in a Prismata tournament before. Day 9 doesn't even fucking read his email. I don't know how to get through to that guy. I know people are like friends with him and they just say like, yeah, he's fucking unreachable. You think retention for StarCraft viewers would be a lot higher than others? Yeah, I mean, those type of predictions are very difficult to make. Because we've discovered a lot of people that absolutely love Prismata are like, I don't know, anime fans. Like, you know, they like playing JRPGs and visual novels. Like, I don't know, we found so many different classes of players that have found their way to Prismata and have stuck with it for a long time. It's hard to really establish StarCraft as being like a dominant thing. Prismata is just an elaborate ruse to make people do math problems disguised as video game. Change my mind. I mean, when we first discovered Prismata, when we just created it by accident and discovered it was way more interesting than we thought it was. Like, I understand that I'm sort of in this population of crazy nerds that love just, like, doing math, right? But then when we showed it to other people who were not math people, and they told us that they also loved this game and found it absolutely fascinating and enthralling, you know, we started to realize, I think it's a little bit more than that. Like, I just want to make something people love. That's it. You know, I don't want to make a game that people are like, it's okay. Like, I don't know. I want to make a game that people are passionate about and people, like, feel that the game itself is enriching their lives, right? You know, like when Freddy Babes said, you know, I wake up in the morning and I just want to play this game. Like, that is the feeling that I want to inspire in people. It's not just about doing math problems. It's not about making people smart or making people think or you know, do analytical problem solving. It's about making them fall in love with trying to get good at something that's challenging and interesting, right? People who have never played a strategy game with an economy have no idea what's happening when they see Prismata. I mean, sure, but like, I think most people have played some kind of strategy game with an economy, even if it's just like a board game or something. Like, I don't know. There's definitely this connection with StarCraft players and Prismata's sort of game flow, where you just start out with a few workers and you can either decide to rush or to tech or to go big econ, and choosing which tech you're going to get and looking at what your opponent's doing and responding to that and attacking and defending. Like, that part of the game flow is such a familiar feeling for StarCraft players that we know that it's sort of, you know, it is a connection for them. They understand it, they get it. But that's not to say there aren't similarly strong connections to players of other genres of games. Give an ETA for new units. So here's how new units work. Right now on our test server, we have a giant backlog of, you know, several dozen new units that we sort of played and tested with, and probably a handful of them that we actually have art for that we are kind of ready to release, but we probably need to do a few passes over them to make sure that we have, you know, every little aspect of the unit perfect, and sort of make sure we are fielding the best version of each unit when we do field it. And that takes some time. So the question is, when do we decide to spend that time on units rather than on some other project, you know, more single-player content, puzzles, etc. Last couple of months, I have spent 0 minutes working on new units. So when should we do new units? Well, we didn't want to bring any out before we went free-to-play, because we figured new units is kind of a nice update for people that have been acquired in free-to-play. And we also don't want to throw new units at them right away, because they're still just learning the units that we have, right? So we kind of want to wait till they've played the game for a while, maybe a month or two, and sort of got used to it, and then think about throwing new units at them. At least that is our plan right now. So we're not in a rush to make new units. You know, if you really want some new units, or in particular if you think something needs to be buffed or nerfed or changed, we can still make some balance patches or adjust things. Some people have suggested we should get rid of Wild Drone and add a new unit in its place, or change Wild Drone completely like we did with Vividrone a long time ago. And we've thought about stuff like that. It's just like, it's not the #1 priority for spending our hours on it right now. Have we considered sponsoring tourneys like the Hearthstone one again? Yeah, we thought about it. If Alex wants to do it, we could do another one. The thing is, it actually, like, that kind of happened as a weird thing, because Alex was really into Hearthstone. I think to some extent he still is. And he just wanted to host a tourney that was legitimate competitively, right? Meaning that it wasn't just like invited streamers and pros and stuff like that, but actually invited like the best players of the game and gave them a chance to win some money. You know, and Prismata, you know, he said, like, you know, what if Prismata sponsors it? And I just said, like, yeah, it sounds like a fucking good idea, let's do it. But that was sort of him running the show. And, you know, he knew all those players and was able to network them and get players in the tournament and sort of speak to them all, contact them. You know, Alex says he just wanted like a monthly ranked tourney, and then it got out of control. Yeah, like, I feel like Hearthstone has never really had that great of an esports scene, and like, you know, I think what we did improve it, but it didn't, like, it wasn't a thing that was really exciting for the general public or the general set of players that are playing Hearthstone. It was excited for a small community of high-level Hearthstone players, and maybe those are the people we want to attract to Prismata, I don't know. But it's hard to say whether or not something like that would bring players over to Prismata. And it's also a little bit questionable whether or not we want to advertise our product by sponsoring games for another company. Like, I actually think Blizzard has rules against that if you're running a tournament. It's kind of a little bit of a gray area. It got a lot of viewers at the time. I think at the time Hearthstone esports was like kind of uncharted territory. Like, that was sort of 2014, middle of the year-ish. Like, you know, it's probably less than a year since Hearthstone got out of beta, right? So, it was sort of more new and fresh and exciting. And I think Hearthstone esports now is like not really in a great spot. I don't know. And Alex's opinion of Hearthstone is that it sucks now. I don't know. Maybe we should sponsor an artifact tourney when that comes out, or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. I would rather sponsor Prismata content, I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Any other questions? If not, it's been fun, and I will catch you in the next video update.